My name is Robert Putansu, and my kids affectionately call me G.O.B., grouchy old. So, bladesmithing is calming to me, and that's really kind of captured my soul.
My name is Ryan Weeks. I worked as a fraud investigator. I worked for the Sheriff's Department and the Fire Department. I also teach scuba diving, and now I make knives part-time. I'm kind of a chronic hobbyist.
I'm Paul Brock. I have work that's been published in Knives 2014 and Knives 2016. I'm a journeyman smith right now. Ultimately, I'll go on a path to being a master smith.
My name is Stephen Bryan. I'm 27 years old. A good friend of mine offered to show me how to make a knife. It just kind of snowballed into this monster of an obsession that I have with bladesmithing now. As a young bladesmith, it's my obligation to try to carry that craft on.
Gentlemen, welcome to the Forge. You are here to engage in 3 rounds of edged weapon making competition designed to test every aspect of your skills, all in front of our panel of expert judges. ABS Mastersmith, Jay Nielsen. Historic Weapons Recreation Specialist, David Baker. Edged Weapons Specialist, Doug Marcaida. They are the ones that decide which of you will be the Forged and Fire champion and leave here with that check for $10,000. If you look down at your anvils, you'll notice that there's nothing there. That's because there's a little twist. You'll be making signature blades using this. A massive chunk of twisted elevator cable.
I've worked on cable knives before, but nothing of that size.
Keep in mind that in the second round, you'll be attaching handles to your blades to turn them into fully functional weapons that will then be tested for strength in a cable wire chop and for edge retention in a fire hose slice. You will have 10 minutes to work on your design. You will have 3 hours to forge your blades. Good luck, bladesmiths. Your time starts now.
That is one big piece of cable.
That's 4 years worth of knives right there.
One of the areas that I feel like I excel in is the design aspect. I know what works and what feels good in the hand. I'm designing a camp knife. It's really good at chopping wood. It's got a bit of recurve. Really just a utility knife on crack. I could draw in some inclusion.
I know the test is going to be a cable chop and a fire hose slice. So I instantly thought about a competition-style cleaver. Very basic. The only thing is then get that cable to cooperate.
We've worked with cable here in the Forge before, and it's always a very complicated process.
That's the thing. If you try to shortcut it for time, it all goes to hell.
I'm gonna make a recurve buoy with a lot of swell towards the front so that it has a lot of chopping power. Not been doing this very long, so I stumble all over myself, and people sometimes underestimate me or think that I'm weird. But at the end of the day, I bring a lot of creativity to the table.
You're gonna do a recurve? I'm gonna do straight and to the point, I think. Because we're working with cable, I'm gonna spend less time on the actual design of the knife and most of my time getting a solid bar of steel. I'm gonna make a really basic chopping knife, simple drop point blade.
Bladesmiths, your 10-minute design window is closed. Your 3-hour forge time starts now. Now, this is obviously something you would want to work with another smith to accomplish.
There's no choice, they have to.
Oh, my God.
Just rotate it.
Look at Robert go.
That's awesome.
Carry that right on around.
We got it, you got her?
Yeah, man, look at him go.
There we go.
All right.
Chop saw.
That was just so smart the way they pulled that cable out.
Welder.
How critical is it to weld all of those strands together on the end?
You put this cable in the forge, the metal heats expands. So those threads start pushing away from each other. It's one of those steps where I just go ahead and do it because it only takes a couple minutes and it just secures it more.
My plan is to knock all the crud out of the cable and the inside of it so that I can get a clean weld, get the grease out, get the flux in.
Is that a pyrometer?
Paul, is that a pyrometer?
Yes, sir. I like to know what temperature my steel is before I quench it.
Wow, that's smart.
A lot of guys judge the temperatures by color, but when you're forge welding, I really like to know exactly what the temperature is.
Wow, Jay, I've never seen you have a total man crush on somebody's answer.
Well, actually, I'm about to break that crush. I applaud Paul for bringing the pyrometer, but it also is a sign of somebody who's probably really meticulous, and I'm watching Paul trying to scrub this cable clean, and that's time wasted. It's easier to just heat it up a little bit, tap it slightly open to get all that heat in there, cook all of that out, and then twist it closed.
Stuff is dirty. It's gonna weld. The hardest part about using cable to make steel is making sure that welds will stick, and I'm afraid that it's just not clean enough.
Oh.
Oh my goodness, man.
That didn't work. It just falls all apart. I should have waited to work on this.
To twist this cable, you have to get it up to heat.
Oh, hell.
Yeah, this is done. You know, I can grab another piece of cable and start again, but I don't like the cable to begin with in terms of its cleanliness, you know. I just decide it's gonna be a canister.
It's a workaround, but is it a legit workaround?
We didn't say they needed to make cable Damascus. We said they needed to work with that cable.
Canister Damascus or something I've never done before. But I just feel like the process is more foolproof than taking a risk on the cable just not welding well.
Something that he's never done before. It's a ballsy move.
Steven doesn't have the time to make a mistake with a canister. That is a lot of pressure.
That's my new plan.
Let's just look over here at Robert. He's got a huge pipe wrench on that cable, and he's twisting it up. That's what we expect to see, isn't
Right.
it?
If you do the cable properly, as you twist it, it'll actually start forward welding. Wow. And see, Paul, everything's staying tight. He put a lot of weld on the end. See, there's a difference between Paul and Ryan right there.
One of the big problems with doing cable Damascus is it tends to unravel. I know that these ends have to be welded up to do a good forge weld on it. Hopefully I can get it looking like a square bar of stock.
You have only 2 hours remaining to finish your work.
Steven doesn't even have anything in the fire.
Not good.
So far behind all of our other Smiths at this point. Steven!
I know, yeah. I have my canister packed as tightly as I can get it with clean pieces of cable and powdered steel. Weld the lid on it. I get that sucker in the forge, and the heat is on.
Crap. Yeah, that end's coming unwelded.
Paul has probably the nicest billet of steel out there, and he's worrying about teeny little hairs on the outside of that billet.
If I don't spend the time to get a solid bar, there's no knife gonna happen. So that's really where I'm focusing my time.
I'm all for meticulous work, but this is a 3-hour challenge. If they have flyaways, like Dave's wild eyebrows, you should be able to just chop them off once you start getting things welded up.
That's all right. Sometimes these cables can splinter like Jay's personality.
I might have to fold this. It's not wide enough. It's getting a little longer and leaner than I really want. I have to fold it and get it thick enough so that I'd have something to work with. Who designed that hammer?
That's a guy who hits metal hard.
Yeah.
Ugly. As I heat it up, pieces are popping out all over the place. Coming a bit unraveled. Me and the steel. If they're running through the entire blade or along the cutting edge, they're gonna create weak spots. It won't pass the test. It will not move on. I need to assess what I've got. I need to know if this billet's solid. Everywhere.
We're asking for our longer blade, 14 to 16 inches. If these guys got too many of these flyaways they have to cut off, they have to make sure they have enough steel.
Hopefully I've got enough steel underneath that I can salvage this piece that I'm working with.
What the heck is Steven doing? He's standing there watching everybody else.
I give the canister 30 minutes in the forge because I want that thing to be hot enough to set the weld. So for that 30 minutes, I'm standing here sweating.
It's not going to weld itself together.
I'm sitting here stringing curse words together to myself.
Steven! You all right?
Yeah, I'm just waiting for heat.
Just making sure.
Yeah, I'm not looking very smart right now.
It's gotta be hot, right?
hot.
I can't really see if it's hot enough or not. I'll do it. Don't screw this up.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Steven's
Here we
on the
go.
move.
Oh, no.
Well, there went that. Not welded.
Steven's shaking his head, but like it looks pretty good.
I think he's in panic shutdown mode is what I think.
I've never done a canister before. I'm really concerned that it's not welded. Time is running out. Without a good solid piece of steel, I can't present anything. That was a huge mistake. Do you think that's set, Paul? I have no idea what a set weld on a canister looks like.
I would heat it all the way up and give it another squeeze.
So I'm like, well, I guess I gotta keep trying.
He's got to really get moving on that steel.
If this canister doesn't work, he may be out of this competition. 2 hours has elapsed!
All right, I'm gonna go a different route here. I'm gonna have to just go to the grinder. I've just got inclusions from the edge all the way through to the spine. So I'm gonna grind on it until I get the best blade I can make, hoping there's something alive inside.
There's a lot of scoring in lines. Hopefully they don't go deep.
Steven, who's never done a canister, is trying to play catch-up right now.
He needs to get moving on it. He needs to get the canister out, though.
Why?
But he does have to expose a hardened edge because the can itself is soft steel.
Yeah, but he can do that when he grinds his blade.
Get the canister off?
No, I'm just cutting the corner of it off. The weld's held, and so at this point, I've taken what should have been a generous window for my forging time down to frog's hair, you know, on the back end.
Not need to be perfect. It needs to be done.
He's got to be fast. He's got to catch up to these other smiths.
Not out of the woods yet. I still need to harden this blade.
I'm pleased with the shape, and I've got to get this thing in the oil. Pull it out, and I got a warp. Fortunately, it's still warm. I can move it.
You don't very often see a smith smacking on a blade with a hammer right after he quenched it.
Because there's a chance of shattering the blade. Is that correct?
Paul, getting ready.
Blade's hard, and I'm like, yeah, that's what I'm here to do.
Steve just quenched his blades.
Steven has made up a lot of ground here.
Ryan has quenched.
Fire, fire, fire.
Doug's just here for the quench.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bladesmith, shut down your machines, because this round is over.
Time's up, and a blade is I'm just glad I have something at this point.
There's just that little thing in the back of my mind saying, you have a warp, you're not done yet.
Bladesmiths, it's time for the judges to take a closer look at your work. Robert, you're up first.
I do like that shape, that kind of bush knife. It's got a bit of like an S to it. It doesn't look far enough out that you probably couldn't grind that out, though.
You also broke a hammer out there on the floor, right?
Just one.
Just one.
So it was an easy day.
Ryan, you're up.
First off, Ryan, I love the drop in the handle, especially for the test that we're going to be doing. That being said, you've got a lot of loose metal here still. I always get nervous when I can play music on a knife.
Paul, you're up.
Your steel does look really good. I mean, I can still see that cable moving through it there, but I can't get a fingernail in any of that. So there's a bit of a warp there, but it's very small. All in all, it came together well. Thank you.
Steven.
Well, Steven, you had a total catastrophe with the cable, but then you came up with, as Dave calls, a workaround. The steel looks good. My big concern is this, though. That is not a knife edge.
Gentlemen, while the judges go into deliberation, I'm going to ask you to leave your blades here on this table. Thank you. Okay, so judges, I would assume that Paul and Robert in this particular round of competition are safe. Does everybody agree with that?
Oh, yeah.
So that leaves Ryan and Steven. Let's take a look at Ryan's.
Uh-oh.
I love this shape. The scale of his handle is really dialed in, but this has not been welded into a homogeneous piece of metal.
There's just so many structural issues. There's a minimum of 5 creases in this blade edge. I mean, right here, there's just a chunk that's gone.
All right, let's take a look at Steven's blade. Doug?
We've got cable, 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 canister Damascus. What? It's one of the harder challenges, and he's never done one.
I want to know why everybody wants to learn how to do canisters on our show.
You're my hero, man, on that canister.
What there is a design here is pretty poor. That being said, the steel is solid. Structurally, it looks good.
Okay, have you made your final decision?
Oh, yeah.
Let's go tell our smiths. Bladesmiths, The judges have made their final decision, and it's time for one of you to leave the forge. Ryan, your blade did not make the cut.
Yeah, Ryan, I love the way your blade was progressing, but one of the biggest keys in a functioning knife is structural integrity. And with all the seams and pieces flaking up, your blade just doesn't have that integrity. So that's why we have to send you home.
I understand.
Ryan, please surrender your blade.
I feel upset, obviously. I would like to have put out a better blade.
Cool shape, man.
Thank you. You can't have a good blade without good steel, and it definitely was not good steel. Because I failed so horribly, I will go home and do it 20 times so that I can do it right.
Congratulations, bladesmiths. You've made it into the second round of this competition. Now it's time to turn your blades into fully functional weapons by attaching handles to them using the range of materials provided in our pantry. You will have 4 hours in this round. However, there's a twist. In exchange for this additional hour, you're also going to have to construct at least one mosaic pin in your handles. A hollow pin with a custom decorative inlay that you will design using the tubes and metals provided.
I've never done mosaic pins before, and so I'm somewhat worried.
After the time runs out, your weapons will be tested for strength and durability in a cable wire chop and for edge retention in a fire hose slice. Good luck, bladesmiths. Your 4 hours starts now. We have a 4-hour challenge. What are we giving these smiths an additional hour
Mosaic
for?
pins are incredibly tough to do for some people. I mean, it's a fairly simple concept. We've seen that sometimes somebody attempts something they haven't before and make a hot, sticky mess out of it.
The difficult part of making a mosaic pin is to get the resin to go completely through without leaving air pockets. But the hardest part for me is going to be getting my blade straight. So my plan for round 2 is to set up everything for the handle first, get that out of the way, and then get to the blade.
If I was going to make a mosaic pin in my shop, I would have laid out a design on paper and used geometry. Here, I just have to make something look pretty good. So I'm making a dark spot next to some light pins that are in kind of an orbital pattern around it.
That was a messy, nasty stuff.
So I've got the epoxy in, and it's not really going my way. If those pins start sliding around in there when they're doing a chopping test, I'm going to get called out on it really quick.
I got by the skin of my teeth in round 1, so I want to prove that I can hang. Jay was really displeased with the blade shape. So my plan for this round is to completely reshape the blade. If I put a slight recurve in it, I can make a powerful chopper that will also cut more efficiently.
That's a sharp spatula.
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 1 hour has elapsed. What's Robert doing?
I want to get that warp out of the blade. I know that I can just gently urge it into position.
The risk of snapping a blade at this stage is higher.
Don't do that.
It's starting to get the bends out of it, out of the blade.
Don't do that.
Oh, Robert just snapped his blade.
Oh, damn.
Yep. Look at this.
Oh, my God. Time for creativity, man.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking. A lot of people affectionately call me MacGyver. Pretty much make anything out of anything. The warrior inside of me just can't quit. How do I get this blade back together, strong, so that it can be tested? What do you do with a break out in the woods? You put a splint on it. I find a piece of flats bar to splint this with. I'll just insert that blade into it and I can solder it.
How does solder create the strength and integrity that he needs?
Soldering it is not going to make as much heat as welding would. It's less likely he's going to burn up the blade.
You have only 2 hours remaining.
My next step is to start figuring out this handle. I want to make a hidden tang handle on my knife, but none of the handle material was wide enough. So I'm going to make a frame handle that has a little notch that locks onto the tang so that I won't have to pin the centerpiece in. It'll be locked in by the pin that I put through the tang. I really want to present a handle that I feel like is functional.
When I see Robert's blade break, I know that there's definitely a chance that that could happen to me. A warped blade is a serious issue. It's something that I would never let get out of my shop, and I know that the judges would pick up on that.
Paul's fretting over a little wiggle in his blade, torching it, and possibly compromising the structural integrity of it.
I have to really be careful how much pressure I put on that blade.
Oh my God.
This would be very memorable if we had 2 snap blades.
Still just a little bit, but I think it's a lot better than it was before.
While my epoxy is drying, it seems like a good time to start figuring out what I'm going to put on the mosaic pen. I figure the more stuff I put in here, the less void I have to fill. And so I tried to fit as many things as I could in kind of a neat little pattern.
All right, I got it everywhere. I'm sorry about that.
I now have a functional blade. It's an ugly baby, but it's my baby. We'll see if it stands up to the judges. I'm going to use every last second to get this handle right. And if I go home, I went out kicking.
I'm going to do a full tang handle. A mosaic pin works very well with a full tang handle because you can just drill large holes and you can create a 3-layer sandwich for the handle. And the mosaic pin will help structurally lock that together.
I hope he's got enough material there so he doesn't make too skinny of a handle.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Bladesmith, shut down your machines, drop your tools. This round is over.
I'm looking at the splint. I'm still concerned. It's a weak spot.
Bladesmiths, welcome to our strength test, the wire cable chop. I'm going to take each of your blades. I'm going to baton them 3 times at 3 different points. Now, keep in mind, it's not what your blade can do to this cable. It's what the cable's going to do to your blades. Steven, what do you think?
I think we might be in trouble. When I see the cable wire, I'm even more worried than I was before because it's so thick. There's a good chance that my blade will just snap in half.
Well, Steven, it held up pretty well. You do have some wrinkling, especially on the first 2 strikes. Third one, not as much. But the handle's nice and tight. Nice job. So you saw that, Paul. What are you thinking? You ready?
I'm as ready as I can be.
Well, Paul, you definitely have some chipping out on the edge here, especially on the last 2 strikes. But stayed in alignment. Everything's tight. Nice job. What are you thinking, Robert?
Well, this steam hammer in my chest says, let's get her done. Well, that's it. It's gonna break. There's no way he can put that weak spot on hardened cable and it'll stay.
Well, Robert, it's survived. But that crack at the edge has opened up now. There's definitely separation damage from the initial break. Definitely had it chipping out on the 3 spots where I struck. That being said, you made the best of a bad situation. Good job.
Thank you.
Doug?
Bladesmith, this is sharpness test. To see how sharp your blade is, I will take your weapon and attempt to cut through this fire hose. Steven, you're up first. You ready?
Yes, sir. In round 1, the judges didn't really like the little whoop-dee thing in the edge. I was able to make a lot of improvement, but there's always a chance that something could go wrong.
Wow. Okay, Steven, first of all, your handle, it is wide. Because of its wideness, it keeps on wanting to turn over. But barring that, your edge is very sharp. Your blade will cut.
Thanks.
Paul, you're up next. Okay, Paul, this feels very good in the hand. Not only do I feel like I can cut forward, but immediately I'm ready to do follow-up thrusting or another slash. Overall, your blade will cut.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you.
Robert, you're up next.
Since that crack opened up a bit, I'm really worried about the blade catching and just halting mid-stroke. If my blade doesn't stand up, I'm out of here. We got it. Praise God, I need to get through just one more challenge, this one challenge.
Okay, Robert, your design here is a nice, clean arc that allows for a good slice. You definitely gave us a chopper here. Your weapon, sir, will cut.
Thank you.
There's no telling what the judges will decide. All of us met the parameters of the challenge and performed well. So who the heck knows where this is going?
Bladesmiths, the judges have made their final decision, and it's time for one of you to leave the forge. Robert, your blade did not make the cut.
Robert, you did something we've never had happen on this competition. You came back from a catastrophic blade failure, found a workaround, and actually made it into the testing of that weapon. But in the end, your blade took more damage than the other blades, and that's why we've got to let you go.
Understand.
Robert, please surrender your blade.
I would love to move on, but my best lessons have been through failure. So just being here is a win. And my family, they'll be happy I didn't give up. They'll just revert back to, oh yeah, that's MacGyver. He'll figure something out.
Paul, Stephen, congratulations. You're both one step closer to the title of Forged and Fire Champion and a check for 10 grand. All that you need to do now is go home and recreate an iconic weapon from history. That weapon is the Nambe Nulu.
The Nambe Nulu is a ceremonial sword made by the Nambe tribe of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. Featuring an ornate wooden hilt and an embellished scythe-shaped blade, this intimidating weapon was reputedly used around the late 19th century for the sacrificial beheading of tribal slaves. The razor-sharp outer edge of the hook was said to separate the victim's head from his neck in one swift, fatal strike. Following the abolition of human sacrifice, the Nulu transitioned from executioner's weapon to an insignia of prestige carried at ceremonial dances.
Nambe Nuno, whatever that is.
That's awesome. It is eerily reminiscent of a hungamungo, which I was kind of worried about having to make something like that.
You will have 5 days at your home forge to complete this challenge. At the end of those 5 days, you will return and present your Nambe Nulus to our panel of expert judges. Good luck, Bladesmiths. We'll see you in 5 days.
I want to get going. My shop is, I often refer to as a hobbit hole. This is a fire-breathing spider that will eat you alive. I make weird stuff, and this is really weird. That doesn't lop off a head. I don't know what will. This blade is a really difficult one to shape because there's a lot of curvature. To get a blade like this to balance, I've got to do a lot of hammer work, and I've got to be really careful not to cancel out everything I do on each hammer stroke. I definitely feel like an underdog, if for no other reason that I didn't get to show my ability to forge in the first round. It's a great opportunity to show that I do have some skill. It's really important to me to win this so people remember who Stephen Bryan is. I will be moderately Googleable.
My competition is Stephen, who's a great young smith. He doesn't have the kind of experience that I do, but none of us have any experience making a Nambe Nulu, so it's going to be a tough race. It's such an unusual shape. This is a very complicated weapon, so I'm going to have to be really careful to make sure I go through all the rules time and time again to make sure that I don't miss anything. We've seen a lot of guys that have gone down for issues of length or width. A Nambe Nulu has about 55% of its length in the relatively straight section and about 45% of its length in the curved section towards the end. I'm deciding to use a leaf spring. The Nagambe used salvaged materials that already had holes or shapes cut in it and form their pieces around them. I'm gonna drop a drift right down that hole and just see if I can get the hole to open up. I'm gonna try to achieve good balance with this blade. It's a really unusual shape so that it feels good in the hand and that it will swing nicely. I'm feeling pretty good right now. However, the biggest challenge for this project is the heat treat. It definitely won't go in the current opening. If I can't heat treat this, we're gonna have a real problem.
No, I'm feeling the pressure because I know that I have a lot to do today. Propane, I need to heat this sucker up. Time to heat treat. This is a really critical point in this process. There's a lot that could go wrong. If the blade's gonna fail, I will know very quickly after it's hardened. There is a warp. It's in the main section of the blade. If I try to straighten it and it cracks, I'm in trouble. Ugh.
Today, I'm gonna have to heat treat. I'll pretty much have to widen the whole top. I hate to take the time to carve up my heat treat furnace, but I really don't have any other options at this point. I'm feeling pretty nervous right now. There's a lot that could go wrong. I could get a really bad warp, or the blade could fail to harden and I'd have to start the process over again. Man, I hope that that's not like an omen right there. Oh, hell, I'm gonna go for it. That's good. It doesn't look any worse than it did when I put it in. That is such a huge relief.
Today is the day that everything has to be done. Yesterday, I was able to get all of the warp out in the temper. That was a relief. I am putting the handle on right now. I need to make sure that I don't settle for gaps in misalignment. I highly doubt I'll hit the marks that Paul will hit just because he has so much more experience with fit and finish. And so stakes are much higher. So this epoxy works very fast, and I'm becoming very aware of the closing window of time I have here to get everything assembled. With 30 minutes of time left in the last day, I cracked the last piece in the handle. I have to make a new piece. The mistake has been made. There's no going back. I have just enough of African blackwood to replace my last piece on my handle. At this point, time is really precious.
When I make knives, I try and pay attention to the small details. I'll take the nickname Captain Meticulous. The first thing I'm getting at this morning are the globes that are a required element on the end of the handle. The globes could be thought of as a really large pommel. They're using wood instead of metal as a counterweight. That'll make it really accurate to the Ngambe Nulu. Got scales cut. I made a weighted pommel nut to put on to the very end so that I can dial in the balance. I'm adding a leather spacer, which will act like a cushion. This will all dampen vibration like a shock absorber. The last detail is doing the leather handle wrap. It's gonna be a great grip. So this is a 1-inch thick manila rope. It's a standard test for a lot of knife edge stuff. The worst case scenario would be to find out that my edge doesn't hold up. Go about like that. Something like that could send me home. And here we go. And that is a pass.
Bladesmiths, welcome back to the Forge. You've had 5 days at your home forges to work on your finale weapons. Paul, how did it go?
It went pretty well. It's made out of leaf spring steel. The grip is actually wrapped with goatskin. The globes were turned from babenga wood, which is native to the Congo. And then there's a pommel nut on the end of that.
Nice. Steven, what do you got?
I've got a forged ACRV blade. It's a steel that's pretty commonly used on swords right now with a really beefy hidden tang through an African blackwood handle.
All right, gentlemen, you know what's next. The weapons test. Dave?
Gentlemen, this is the sharpness test. To test the sharpness of your blades, I'll be cutting into our cane man here. Paul, you ready?
Yes, I feel good. I know that the geometry behind my edge is thin and convex, so it should cut through the cane very well.
This is what I love to see come back in the third round. This feels like a weapon. It cuts like a weapon. It went right through that cane. You nailed it.
Thank you.
All right, Steven, you ready for this?
Yes, sir. Dave is clearly excited about Paul's blade, which is great for Paul. I'm a little worried because I want to be excited on my blade too, but we'll see.
Your weapon, same weapon, different feel. It's a different weight, it's a different balance, but the cuts, you can see it just passed right through. There wasn't any resistance on that cane. Nicely done.
That felt really good to hear. Never expected to make it this far based on how round one went. And it just feels good to have made something that's effective.
Gentlemen, to test the strength and durability of your blades, I'm going to chop into these clay pots. This is not about what your blades do to the pots, but what these pots can do to your blades. Paul, you're up first.
Hitting something as hard as a clay pot, I don't have any idea what it's going to do to my edge.
That's pretty cool.
The balance is really nice on this. It's heavy where it needs to be heavy. When you're swinging it, you know where it's going. Right? There's a slight roll on the edge of your blade right here that I can get a fingernail on that. Everything down at the handle and the guard are still tight? Yeah, other than that one roll, seems to have held up well. All right, Steven, it's your turn. You ready for this?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Pretty concerned because clay is really dense and it's really hard on an edge. If it's gonna chip hitting clay.
Nice and straight. I don't really see anything out of alignment. Your blade's a little bit heavier than Paul's, but it's got a good feel. It's got a good balance. The wood you've got in the handle and the extension of this handle has put the balance in a really nice place.
Cool.
Yeah, I can't feel any deformation on the edge. Well done.
Thank you.
Next up, the kill test. Doug?
I know what the weapon was used for, and I'm starting to wonder pretty hardcore what we're about to do to these dummies.
Bladesmiths, this is the kill test. The Nambinulu wasn't just a weapon used by tribal chiefs to show status. It was also known as the beheading sword of the Congo. So to see what kind of lethal damage your weapon will do, I will take your Nambinulu and I'll deliver lethal slashes on this ballistics dummy. And I'm gonna try to take its head off.
They're gonna actually cut the head off of this dummy. Who does that?
Oh my God. That was badass.
All right, Paul, let's talk about your Nambinulu. It feels good in the hand. It's got a razor's edge here that, upon its initial delivery into the gut, that dug in deep all the way into the bowel.
Yeah.
Now, for its intended purpose of going up to decapitate the head, well, come on, it's got no head, it's dead. Your weapon will kill.
Thank you.
All right, Steven, it's your turn. You ready?
Yes, sir.
I'm gonna head on over and grab your sword.
I'm a nervous dude, and I really hope that my blade hangs with his.
All right, Steven, your blade is sharp. It lacerated all the way into the bowels. You can see that cut through the jaw and all the way through the head. The wood that you have here, it's smooth, but it's the index here that you have for that. The way you have it flattened out and avoid that feels good in the hand.
Yes, sir.
And it will kill.
Thanks. We have such different blades, and it's hard to know what the preference will be on that. I mean, I feel like my blade performed well, but they were very happy with Paul's blade, so we're head-to-head, no pun intended.
Paul, Steven, the judge's deliberation is complete, and they've made their final decision. But before I give you that decision, I have some feedback for both of you. Doug?
Paul, from the get-go, the way you're meticulous about your work shows the way your Nambinulu showed up. The attention you put on the handle, the leather wrapping, and the way it feels made it a pleasure to wield. Steven, you persevered all the way through and got you to the finals. Your personal look put onto that Nambinulu made it beautiful to wield, and overall, both your weapons live up to Executioner's sword. Good job.
Thank you.
Gentlemen, in this competition, there can only be one champion. The Forged in Fire champion is... Steven, congratulations. You are the Forged in Fire champion. Paul, unfortunately, your weapon did not make the cut.
Paul, you both made beautiful weapons, and they both performed beautifully, too. So then we had to look at the finest of details. And that rolled edge in the strength test, well, that was a deciding factor. So that's why we have to send you home.
I understand.
Paul, thank you very much for turning in such a beautiful weapon, but now I have to ask you to surrender it. And please leave the forge.
I certainly accept the judge's decision. My edge rolled and Stevens didn't. The judges had to make a call. I think that we made it hard on them to decide between the two of us, so it really did come back down to that one detail. But I'm really happy that the judges could see I bring a lot of thought and purpose to the work that I do. First thing I'm going to do when I get home is clean my shop and get on with what I usually make.
Steven, congratulations. You are the Forged in Fire champion and will be receiving a check for 10 grand. How do you feel?
I feel great. It's a little surreal. I damn well proved what I came here to prove. I am creative, and that I can make a functional weapon, and that you don't have to be the most experienced. If you put your heart into stuff, things, can turn out well. It was fun as hell, and I'm glad that I came out on top.